Hey, it's Larry Kirshner here with Hauntworld.com. Don't forget, when you're trying to find a haunted house, go to Hauntworld.com and find the best and scariest places. We also have a blog on Hauntworld with all the latest haunted house industry news. But make sure you like and subscribe to our page and share our videos with all your friends and leave your comments and let us know what you think. Let me tell you something, we're gonna go into the time machine. We're gonna go into the Wayback Machine. We're going way back to the 1990s when we made these movies called Hauntworld the Movie. Believe it or not, when we made the first one, we never thought there'd be a second one, much less 19 of them. It's actually over 40 hours of footage of how-tos and like tours through some of the scariest haunted houses of the 90s and early 2000s. Some of these videos are really long, they're really entertaining, some of them are really funny, but they do take you through a lot of haunted houses, and you're gonna see all of them. Part 1 through part 19, we're gonna keep uploading them right here to the Hauntworld YouTube channel. Again, like and subscribe, and get ready to go to the Wayback Machine and see some of the best and scariest haunted houses and how-to advice from the 1990s and early 2000s. Here we go. All right, first up is Hauntworld the Movie, Part 1. Are you ready to go back to the 1990s and see what haunted houses looked like and what the haunted house advice was back then, the how-tos? Here we go.
Good evening, boils and ghouls. I am Dr. Frightener, your spiritual guide through the haunted world as we know it. Good evening. We are about to take a journey through an internet site called Hauntworld, where you can find professional haunters posting on message boards such as the Fright Forum. You can find haunted houses from ghost to ghost, manufacturers, suppliers from all over the haunted world. So prepare yourself for a cold and chilling look at the world of haunted houses. I am Dr. Frightener, and we are going to explore Hauntworld the Movie. Now, boys and ghouls, you've asked for it. You want to see the creepy side of America, don't you? Well, that's what we're going to do right now. Remember, you only have a few seconds to grab that caramel apple, that apple cider, because we are going to take you on a journey that you've never seen before. We are going to go now to Larry Kirshner, who's standing by at Hauntworld headquarters. Larry, tell us a little bit more about Hauntworld and what we are going to experience here.
Thanks, Dr. Frightener. Hauntworld was set up to showcase the industry, what the industry has to offer. As you know, the industry of haunted attractions is growing so rapidly, I mean, we can barely keep up with it. And to be able to stay on top of the trends and the things that are happening in the haunted world today, you've got to be able to communicate on a daily basis, not on a bi-monthly or quarterly basis, or as everybody knows, there's a big Halloween show. We can't communicate one time a year. So Hauntworld was set up for posters, haunters to come on to Hauntworld and post messages so they could learn from other haunters' experiences to see what worked there and what worked here. And basically, you can come to Hauntworld and find out every single manufacturer through Hauntworld's yellow pages. If you have an animation to trade, you can come to Hauntworld and post it. If you've got a hot press release, something new coming out, or if you just want to find out where all the haunted houses across the country are. Hauntworld literally has over 100 haunted houses listed in our pages, so you can find out where they're at. And coming soon, Hauntworld's going to have a major sponsor that's going to push regular customers into Hauntworld so they can find where your haunted houses are, and they can download information about your haunted houses, such as coupons and things like this. So basically, that's what Hauntworld was set up to do. So, Dr. Frightener, the purpose of Hauntworld the movie is to give the industry and the regular customer, the people that pay the bills at these haunted houses, a tour through the haunt world as we know it. We're going to explore several haunted houses such as Terror on Church Street, Spooky World, Brutal Planet, the Darkness Haunted Theme Park, and many other haunted houses. We're also going to chat with several haunted consultants such as Kevin McCurdy and Dr. Lady and Eric Prinz, a master of animation. We're also going to talk to Fango's editor, Anthony Timpone, and we're going to ask him what it takes to make a haunted house truly successful. So what we're going to do, let's test and see if this is going to work. Let's see if we can load up a haunted house. Basically what we would do is we'd pull down the space bar, go to the Fright Zone, and click on Hauntworld's Guide to Haunted Houses from around the country. What haunted house should we look up? Let's try New York City. I heard there's a very scary attraction there. And we just pull it down to New York. Madison Square Garden. Sounds familiar. We worked on Madison Square Garden last year along with several other haunted consultants. Believe it or not, Madison Square Garden is an attraction that is unbelievable. There's like 6 haunted houses all under one roof, created by Linton B. Harris in Madison Square Garden. Let's click on it and see what we can find out.
Dare to come in here? Get in there! Come back!
I don't fight, I kill! And you're my next victim!
Wasn't that a frightful tour? And you thought taxi cab drivers were the only thing scary in New York City. Now, let's talk marketing. I think we're going to need some reference material. I'll be right back. Marketing. There are so many things to learn about marketing. But when it comes to marketing a haunted attraction, that's a book in itself. Let's see if we can go down to Eddie Kirshner. Let's see what he knows about marketing. And better yet, let's see if he can find anyone through the haunt world that can share with us some secrets to marketing a haunted attraction.
Thanks, Dr. Frightener, for thinking so highly of me to ask me something about marketing a haunted house. I know quite a bit about marketing in a haunted attraction. I'm no expert. There are many people out there that know quite a bit more about marketing a haunted attraction than I do. But I'll tell you what I know. One of the things I do know is that coupons are very important. People are more likely to go if they have a coupon than not go if they don't have a coupon. So you need coupons. They're very important. Now, the key to coupons is you should pump at least 25 times more coupons into the marketplace than you're hoping to attract in customers. If you want to do 50,000 customers, you need to put at least 1 million coupons on the street. Now, it's not that easy getting 1 million coupons out there. That means you're going to have sponsors. You need to find retail chains that will at least hand out your coupons, if nothing else. So then on your radio advertising, you can say, go to so-and-so retail chain to pick up my coupons. And people will go, they will find them, they will see them in high traffic areas, and this will help your haunted attraction more than you can imagine. As I said, radio and coupons are by far my most highly suggested form of advertising. If you have a bigger budget, I suggest using television. I wouldn't use television in lieu of radio, but if you have the money, use television. Think about it. Television is a very visual medium. You know, you can show images of your haunted house, and your haunted house is very visual, so this is a great form of advertising if you can afford it. Let's take a look at a couple haunted TV commercials, one from Spooky World in Berlin, Massachusetts, and then we'll take a look at our very own Darkness Haunted Theme Park commercial right here in St. Louis.
Spooky World. It's America's horror theme park. Every October night, take a Spooky World ride tour through acres of haunted terrain. Then enter the high-tech wizardry of Spooky World's haunted house, if you dare. Come face to face with the most frightening creatures this side of Transylvania. Call 508-838-0200.
It's America's horror theme park. Spooky World.
The world's third largest Halloween event is waiting for you in Sula, the all-new Darkness Haunted Theme Park. Journey into the black hole. Check into the haunted hotel where the spirits will guide you into an animated elevator that plummets you into the totally new Darkness Haunted House. Spend a moment with master illusionist Adam Flowers. Meet Hollywood celebrities and enjoy more than 13 haunted attractions. Inside the Darkness Haunted Theme Park.
As you can see, TV commercials are a very visual form of advertising and can be very effective. But one of the most effective forms of advertising is publicity. By far and away, this is probably the most looked over part of running a haunted attraction, unfortunately, but publicity can generate you thousands and thousands of extra people to the door. Let's take a look at what Spooky World did to generate tons of publicity. They used now passed away Tiny Tim, who was a guest for many years at Spooky World, to generate even so much interest that Jay Leno came out there. Let's take a look.
Tiny Tim got married on this program how long ago? That showed you how much research went into this. I don't know, 1969. Somebody do the math. All right, anyway. He is getting remarried again tonight. To a different woman? To a different woman. Bill Maher is covering this wedding for us. He's where? Somewhere in Massachusetts, Spookyville, outside Boston. Let's go to Bill Maher live via satellite, who is in Spookyville. Bill, how are you?
Jay, are you there?
Yes, I am.
I am here. I'm at Spooky World, Jay.
Oh, Spooky World. I'm sorry.
Spookyville is right down the road. You don't want to confuse them. This is the one you want to be at, Jay. Don't accept any substitutes.
Yeah.
And believe me, it is spooky. Just look up here, Jay. Is that spooky or what?
Oh, boy.
Come on inside, Jay. I'm at the American Horror Museum. Not quite the museum it was. Look at this, Jay.
What is that?
It's something spooky.
Oh, I see.
Jay, look who I have right here, my friend. It's Tiny Tim.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tiny Tim.
There he is. The man of the hour, Jay.
Yes.
25 years ago, you were asking before, 25 years ago, and I don't know if you remember, but it was a national event. Almost everybody remembers it. It got a huge rating. It was something that people all over the country nowadays say, I know where I was.
Yeah.
It was almost like the Kennedy assassination, except, of course, a little sadder.
Can you imagine how many people that drove to the door just to have that one simple promotion? Sure, that's a little on the elaborate side, but there's things that you can do. You could have a wedding at your attraction, anything to get the media's attention. One of the things that we do here at the Darkness Haunted Theme Park is we sometimes bring in celebrities such as Bobby Boris Pickett. So let's take a look at some of the publicity that the Darkness generated in the year 1997. Let's take a look.
They played the Monster Mash. It was a graveyard smash.
Is it time for this stuff already?
It's starting, and I'm frightened.
Barely
I can't
September.
handle it.
I didn't even realize this, but St. Louis apparently is becoming the scariest place in the world.
I learned that as well today. There's a company called Halloween Productions Incorporated, and they're responsible for scaring people from St. Louis to San Juan.
I hope you like shish kebab. Bob is so delicious this time of year.
If you want a taste of fear, head into Soulard's Old Welsh Baby Carriage Factory, headquarters for the Darkness Haunted Theme Park, the world's third largest privately owned haunted house.
Now, this is one guy who's getting ahead in business.
His name, Larry Kirshner, and his business began...
Basically, when I was in 5th grade, I talked to my apartment manager to let me build a haunted house in the apartment complex, and that's kind of where it started.
I want you!
Larry also owns Terror Vision's haunted house north of downtown St. Louis, but this is his showcase, 50,000 square feet of terror.
We're getting calls from everywhere, from Australia, Europe, South America, and everywhere in the United States. It's getting really big.
You see, Larry and the boys are expanding.
Well, we're building haunted houses and animatronics for haunted houses all over the world.
For instance, this facade is going to Atlanta, and this friendly fiend will frighten folks in Florida. You could say this is the Walmart of fright. Larry just spent $200,000 updating this facility so people can shop till they drop, looking for props to place in haunted houses throughout the world.
I can't stand this guy's guts.
This is big business. Larry plans on making $1 million this season. He opens tomorrow through November 1st.
Hi, John Pertzborn, Show Me St. Louis.
And you never know who you'll meet here, like singer Bobby Boris Pickett. In 1962, he released a song that's still paying his rent. Sing it, Bobby.
I was working in the lab late one night when my eyes beheld an eerie sight. For my monster from his slab began to rise, and suddenly, to my surprise... Well, I'll sing a medley of my hit. Elvis Presley's, the song that Elvis Presley called the dumbest thing he ever heard. You're out there listening, Elvis. I'm still here. Anyway, I'll be doing that every night and signing autographs.
Yes, Bobby Pickett, great guy. You got to meet him. He is really a hoot.
It is Fright Night on News 30. Time for our weekly review of local Halloween haunted houses. Tonight, our guide, once again, Phil Rosen, is in Soulard. He has a live report. Phil?
Don, good evening. I'm just a stone's throw from the Soulard Farmers Market. This is the Darkness Haunted Theme Park, which claims to be the third largest haunted attraction in the country. And let me tell you, they serve up more than just scares for your money. There's no shortage of shock at the Darkness Haunted Theme Park.
Not too close. I'll bite your face.
You'll see it from the moment you check in at the Haunted Hotel lobby.
Welcome, welcome. Come, hurry. We've been waiting for you for a very long time.
It's a place where some of your favorite characters come to life. Ghoulish guys like Jason. And yes, Michael Myers is waiting for you too. You'll see crazy Dr. Frankenstein's lab. And new monsters that like to jump out from the dark.
Go back! I wasn't screaming, but I was scared. I went hysterical and just grabbed my boyfriend really tight.
In the Darkness Asylum, crazed inmates will confront you.
Get up on here! You're gonna die!
Darkness is the brainchild of Dave Welsh. 4 years ago, he transformed his family's old baby carriage factory into a house of horror.
We've made an awful lot of animatronics, and those things were triggered by the light or sound, and they do a very, very good job of scaring the people.
They were all coming at me, all the monsters.
I'm standing in the line to get into the haunted house, and as part of your admission, while you're waiting, you get this free magic show. And if you want more thrills, out the back door you'll find a mini amusement park. Each ride will cost you another $1.25, but most folks say they still come here to get scared. I tell you, the chainsaw seems to do it every time. Here are the Fright Night facts now on the Darkness Haunted Theme Park. Admission will cost you $13. You can get $3 off coupons all over town. Darkness opens at 7 o'clock every night now through Halloween. It's located on 8th Street, again, just west of the Soulard Farmers Market. And that is Wednesday's Fright Night live at Darkness in Soulard. I'm Phil Rosen, News 30.
One of the scariest haunted houses is right here in St. Louis.
And it is called the Darkness Haunted Theme Park. It's located in what used to be the old Welsh baby carriage factory. Fox 2's Rocky Madden shows us the man who runs it is scaring up a lot of cash.
These screams are music to the ears of 28-year-old Larry Kirchner.
I just really love Halloween. I don't see it as a business. I see it as a thrill.
He spent $200,000 on ghouls and ghosts for this haunted house, the third largest in the country.
Halloween's really fun, and it's fun being scared with all of our friends here.
This place serves as a showroom for Kirchner's products.
Kirchner's company sells Halloween props like these to haunted houses across the country and around the world. Next year, he expects to sell $4 million worth of scary stuff.
There's an animatronic that we sell to haunted houses all over the world.
And this is what it looks like in action. Cost $6,000. Crews are always busy on new ideas here. This is for a haunted house in New York City.
We're just constantly thinking of ways that we can make air pistons and monsters jump out and terrify people.
And people love to be scared.
It's really good because it lets things surprise you and stuff like that.
Right now, Kirchner is working on a $5 million haunted house in Orlando, Florida, and haunted houses in South America.
When people come out scared, I'm happy. And when people don't come out scared, I'm like, why didn't you get scared, you know?
And he tells me that he celebrates Halloween 364 days of the year, taking only Christmas off. Halloween in St. Louis begins the 1st of September, runs through November 1st. Now, like any amusement park, of course, they've got all their souvenirs for sale. Dick?
Rocky, you look very natural there. Do you know that?
Well, it is foggy here. I probably look better in this light. They've got tons of fog in here.
But listen, now, that's a big investment. You threw some figures out there, thousands of this, thousands for that. How much money can a guy make out of a haunted house?
Well, it depends on where yours is located in the country, but he tells me one of these haunted houses in Boston, pulls in $2 million in only 31 days.
Whoa.
$2 million.
That's pretty good.
Let's open one.
Let me leave you with one last tip before we go back to Dr. Freitner. When it comes to marketing your haunted attraction, you might consider hiring an advertising agency. But let me offer you this piece of advice. Make sure that the advertising agency that you hire has at least some experiences with one-time events such as circuses or concerts or things like this. This kind of experience will become valuable in promoting your haunted attraction. You see, your event is here today, gone tomorrow, so there's an urgency to get the people to the door today. You don't have 6 months to promote some new product on the shelf. So that's the one suggestion I'd like to leave you if you're going to hire a marketing agency. Now, Dr. Freitner, do you know anyone else in the haunt world that maybe could offer the viewers out there some more suggestions about marketing your attraction?
Of course I do. Dennis George of Events Group Marketing. He's done over 30 haunted attractions. Let's see what he knows about marketing a haunted attraction.
Thanks, Dr. Freitner. You know I'm just a click away when you come through Hauntworld.com. I'm Dennis George. I'm with Events Group, and I specialize in marketing and promotions and events management. Been involved in the Halloween industry for over 10 years. My company has marketed over 32 attractions throughout the United States, and we've entertained, or I should say our clients have entertained, well over 1 million people. One of our secrets to marketing, and probably the most important thing for your marketing, is grassroots. You need to really get involved with your community. Get your community tied into your attraction and the things that you do in your attraction. It's probably the most inexpensive way for you to reach your consumer. With grassroots marketing, you can actually affect your consumer in a very positive way without spending the big dollars that's necessary, but you can also get the talk really going about your attraction. Some of the suggestions that we have for grassroots marketing includes not just your schools and not just the basic things that you'll think about, but also your church groups, your youth groups. But take it a step further. Take a look at hotels and motels. They have a concierge department. Contact your concierge and have them be knowledgeable about your attraction, because when guests come in town and they're looking for something to do on a specific night, wouldn't it be nice for them to be able to go to your attraction? Let me say one thing about operations, specifically related to operations and marketing. They're tied in directly together. If you're managing your consumer complaints properly and you're handling your attraction properly, you're going to get good PR. When someone complains about your attraction or even compliments your attraction, you want to listen to them because their opinion is very important to you. So you want to pay very close attention to that. You want to deal with your operations in a very professional manner as well. When you have incidents at your attraction, you want to treat them with the utmost respect and professionalism. Your staff needs to be trained like that. Take them very seriously because that's a part of PR. That type of talk when people leave your attraction can go a long, long way. One person can hate your attraction and can do more damage than 10 people who love your attraction. Keep that in mind. Also, make sure your employees are tied into your PR. Get them excited about your attraction. Dr. Freitner, you know there's a real value in having your employees pass out literature, pass out posters, pass out flyers. Give them bumper stickers. Let them wear t-shirts to school or to their job or in their community. That type of PR and that type of word of mouth is incredibly valuable for any attraction. When you're marketing, don't forget to market directly to schools, churches, youth groups, organizations and clubs, corporations, and of course the ever-powerful media. It's real simple. You can make one phone call to a TV station and that could result in a camera crew coming out to your location. Phone call didn't cost you any money, but it certainly resulted in a lot of people coming to your attraction if you get on the 5 o'clock or the 6 o'clock or the 10 o'clock news in your market. These simple tips are real easy for you to really make your marketing dollars stretch. You don't have to spend $100,000 in order to get the people. What you have to do is think about your grassroots marketing. The other thing, Dr. Freitner, that people really need to keep in mind is that when you're trying to do inexpensive marketing, don't forget the power of simple mailings. It's real simple for you to put together a mailing that announces your attraction, the date that it opens, and maybe even put in a free pass. Because if you think about it, if you give them a free pass for them to bring along a guest, and it's one person gets in free, they're going to bring along a couple other people who are actually going to pay. This is probably more valuable for a grand opening weekend when you really need to get your attendance going. That early talk is very important to success and to a successful marketing program. When you put together a mailing, some of the key groups that you won't want to forget include schools. Now don't forget the junior highs either. While junior highs tend not to come out on their own, what they will do is they'll put together a group. It's a great way to get a group program going when you have a large group of junior high schools that are coming out on a Friday night. And remember, junior high schools like to do activities early, so often they're going to come at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock before your main crowd gets there anyway, so it's business you wouldn't normally have. Don't forget churches, because churches really do want to come out to your attraction. And remember, don't send along any satanic ritual type stuff. Stay away from all those sorts of things, especially when you're marketing to church groups, because the last thing you want to do is have a picket on your hand. The other thing is youth groups. There are a lot of youth groups, whether it be the YMCA or the boys clubs. Those sorts of organizations all are looking for activities for them to send their groups to. The other thing that a lot of people don't forget is you look at Big Brothers and Big Sisters. Remember, they have a program in every city throughout the United States, and what they're looking for is activities that Big Brothers and Big Sisters can take their little brothers and sisters to. So don't forget to mail information to them. You have clubs. Major corporations like to do outings as well. The other thing is, if you're doing these mailings anyway and you're announcing your attraction, again, don't forget the media, because Dr. Frightener, I've seen it way too many times before where people have forgotten to send just simple basic information to their media. Almost every newspaper in your city will have a calendar section that will highlight Halloween events. You need to be in there. It costs you 32 cents to mail it away, but you've got all the information getting in the paper. So don't forget your television stations, your radio stations, your cable companies, newspapers, newsletters, magazines, colleges, and universities. And you say to yourself, where am I going to get this information? How am I going to find the addresses? Well, if you don't have a local library that has the database resources that you need, use the phone book. It's a real simple method, but at least you'll get it. Also, most white pages now include the zip code in the phone book. So that was originally a big stumbling block for a lot of people. Don't forget to mail these letters with plenty of time announcing that your attraction is open and exactly what you're going to be operating in terms of your hours and some of the features. Remember, you're selling them, so it's a sales letter. Don't forget to tell them a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, maybe even describe a scene or two. These tips are designed for you to once again put together a marketing program that doesn't cost you a lot of money, but again, really allows you to get the best out of your marketing dollar and the most out of your marketing dollar. We can talk about advertising on radio, advertising on television, advertising on billboards. All those things are somewhat simplistic if you're willing to spend the money. But even these other programs, if you're spending all the money in the world, don't forget these simple programs as well. And if you're a smaller haunt, these programs are essential for you to have success. So we wish you the best of luck, and let's just see where Dr. Frightener takes us next.
Terror tips from the grave and beyond.
Now, kiddies, it's on to a new segment. Terror tips from the grave and beyond. Now, one of the things most people complain about is realism in an attraction. Let's head back over to Larry Kirshner. He's going to explain to you why you should take the rails out of your scenes, which adds more realism. The realer your haunted house is, the more ghosts like me you'll get.
Hello again. I see Dr. Frightener wants me to offer you a few tips about eliminating rails in your scenes. We're standing here in the Darkness Haunted Theme Park. We're getting ready for the 1998 season. Lots of things are out of order, but maybe we can use what we have to show you what he's talking about. And while I'm here, I'll try to offer you a few suggestions about increasing business and customer satisfaction in your attraction. The key to adding realism to your attraction is by giving the customer a sense of realism. And the way to do that is to eliminate rails. Like if you had a haunted mansion or a dungeon, where would the rails be if it was a real haunted mansion? There wouldn't be any. There would be only natural, a natural environment like chairs and tables and statues and things like this. What you want to do is you want to design your scene to where the customer is actually walking around natural looking obstacles. Say for example this table. Of course this table isn't in the haunting condition it would be in if the season was here. There'd be all kinds of skeletons sitting around the table, possibly reading books or drinking wine or whatever. But actually the customer would walk in this room. You've got a beautiful Victorian couch over here and your fireplace setting and your table. And you obviously can see that the way to get out of the scene is to walk right past the table. Now, there is one problem with doing your scenes like this. People touching the props. So let's talk about that. One of the problems with doing your sets like we've described here is that sometimes the customers want to touch your props. But I found that even when I did have rails, the customers still somehow managed to touch the props. So what's the difference? They're going to touch them either way. I found that when you let the customer into the scenes, they're less likely to touch things. But if they do, what do you do about it? Well, you take these awesome scary props that you want to keep scary and you want to keep them where they belong, glue them down with concrete nails. Now let me offer you a super terror tip. Take Vaseline, smear it all over the things you think people are going to touch. And let me tell you something. If someone's going to touch a prop, they're going to do it from the first scene to the last scene. When they get into one of the first scenes and they touch something, they get some kind of gooey thing all over their hand, they'll never touch another prop in your whole haunted house. And Vaseline isn't going to hurt your props at all. Now, that's a tip you can take to the bank. Dr. Frightener, one of the most important aspects of a haunted house that is most commonly overlooked is to try to entertain your guests while they're waiting in line. This is very hard to do because teenagers, for the most part, are very antsy, and they make up the bulk of the business for the haunted house industry. Let me give you a few suggestions. Number one, create an indoor waiting line, as we've done here in the Darkness Haunted Theme Park, and also put a concession stand in it. You would be amazed at how much soda and food and things like this you could sell. What we did in our indoor waiting line was we hung all kinds of disco lights and high-tech lighting equipment inside the line and played dance music, and this gave some interaction with the customers and it kept them slightly entertained. Also what we did was every 30 to 40 minutes we had Adam Flowers, master illusionist from Chicago, Illinois, come out on stage and perform different tricks like making things float in midair to actually putting things through people's bodies. It was pretty amazing. Let's check out and see what we did here at the Darkness, and maybe it'll give you a few ideas. Here's Adam Flowers.
I see we have no fan letters today. If you want your haunted house featured on Hauntworld the Movie Part 2, or you think that something that you have needs to be featured here, please drop us a line at this address, 1535 South 8th Street, St. Louis, Missouri, 63104. Or email us at darkness@primary.net, or visit us on the web at www.hauntworld.com. And remember, boys and ghouls, if you have a haunted house and you want it featured on Hauntworld, all you have to do is list it. It's absolutely free.
Back to Terror Tips from the Grave and Beyond.
Last year, a lot of people asked, how do you make those moving eye paintings so realistic? Of course, the master of building them is Eric, the Puppet Master Prinz. He's been building animations and robotics for over 15 years. Let's see if we can find Eric and get the lowdown on the moving eye paintings.
Thank you, Dr. Frightener. You know, one of the effects that we've had a lot of success with here at Creative Design has been eyeball paintings and moving eye animations. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can build these kind of eyeballs and mechanisms that can be used for different things like paintings, statues, masks, and whatnot. And believe it or not, it's very simple, and it can be done with things that you can get at your average hardware store and hobby shop. What I'd like to do is show you one of the earlier eyeball mechanisms we made. As you can see, there's not really much to it. We took our Radio Shack project box. We have a little timing motor here. You can get these surplus or from companies like Granger or McMaster Carr. Inside, it's just radio control linkages. You can pick them up at Allied Hobbies or any other hobby store that carries radio control parts. We happen to have a gear that fit for this thing, but if you didn't have the gear, you could basically take the same little arms, radio control arms like here, and modify them to do the same kind of thing. We just happened to have a gear and it was convenient with something that was laying around in a parts box. The little ball joints are used for radio control. There's a 440 link going across to another ball joint here. The little arm, another ball joint that links the two together so they both have the same movement. And another arm going into that eyeball. All these parts here, the fancy things that look like bearings, are basically used for radio control. I'm not sure what they're actually used for, but if you look at the radio control department of the toy stores or the hobby stores, you're going to find all sorts of weird things that you can modify to basically work with all sorts of kinds of mechanisms. Another neat thing about this mechanism is you can shrink the size down so it would fit inside of a mask. Say you wanted a mask's eyeballs to move, or we've even put them in statues. They're a great little mechanism. They're very reliable. They're so-so as far as noise goes. Another thing you can do is if you wanted to actually control the eyes, or there's even a company out in California called Effective Engineering that sells this thing called a look-alive circuit. You could replace the gear motor with a radio control servo. Servos are pretty cheap right now. You can usually get them for about $8 or $9. You don't need anything fancy for this. It's not really pulling much weight. What a look-alive circuit does is it puts a random eye movement into it. So if you wanted, say, you were doing an asylum or something and you wanted a schizophrenic-looking painting with the eyes rapidly going backwards and forwards, or even if you didn't want to use a look-alive circuit and you use a radio control like the type for cars or whatever, usually you can pick up a setup of that for under $100. You can actually have a person manipulating the eyes so the eyes can follow the people as they walk by. Let me show you basically how the eyes come. Alright, let's talk about the eyeballs now. These are what's known as mannequin eyes that you get from a taxidermist company. They're a really good place to get eyes. They're less than $10 a pair for glass ones. And I think it's really kind of a problem with them is they're only like a quarter of the way around. So you kind of have to fudge with them once you put them in there. Usually what I'll do to build up the eye, so if the eye has a lot of movement in it, is put dab of hot glue around the side and paint it red. So it's kind of, kind of a bloody outline of the eyeball when it moves in. It's a real easy way of getting by with these halfway eyes. You can also get other kinds of eyes, animal eyes. These are wolf eyes. So if you wanted to do a werewolf kind of lycanthrope type room, you can have the wolf eye moving back and forth. Or here's a better kind of human eye, but the pupils a little small. You get cat eyes, owl eyes, all sorts of strange eyes. So you can make any kind of goofy combination you want, which is great for a mad scientist lab. What we did was we took the little plastic brackety things, which I'm not sure what the heck they're called, but they're in the radio control place, like I said, and you put an 8/32 screw through the center of it. This is about an inch and I think it's about 1 3/4 screw. Put a washer on the top, washer on the bottom. Then you take your little control arms, put them about in the center. What's really nice is they'll fit over the 1/8 32nd screw fairly easy. Kind of get them in the center. Do the same thing on the bottom with the washer and the little bracket. Now what you want to do, the easiest way I've found to do this is to take a glob of clay, any kind of modeling clay or whatever, push the eyeball down into it. And then push the mechanism in the center, try to keep it as straight as possible in there, and put 5-minute epoxy in. You're best using 5-minute epoxy because things like hot glue, sometimes depending on the eyeball and how it was painted, will actually pull the paint away from the eyeball, and it gives you kind of like a secondary glass effect. I don't recommend using things like Alumilite or any of the quickset thermal things because the heat generator has a tendency to crack the eyeballs. That was a nasty problem I had with some very expensive eyeballs that I was doing for a dragon character one time, and it was a very expensive learning mistake, and believe me, I'll never use that stuff again. In any case, that's basically how you set your eyeballs in. Once they dry, even though it says 5-minute epoxy, I would usually let it sit about an hour because it's still kind of tacky afterwards. That'll give you your nice little moving eyeball swivel mount. Okay, now that we got our eyes done, as you can see it's glued in there. What I did with this one was I actually needed a little more space, so what I did was I cut the head off the screw, and just wound up using 2 little nuts in there. That kind of flattens it out so it moves a little bit more centered, kind of less eccentric. Doesn't really matter. It just happened to have a couple nuts that fitted laying around, and seemed to work pretty good. Let's stick with the paintings now. This is what we got to do. Paintings are very easy to get. You basically, any flea market, garage sale, used clothing place, you look around, you'll find a lot of these paintings. As a matter of fact, like this painting, I've bought the same painting about 12 times now. So I've done a lot of the same paintings. What we need to find out now is the center on the eyes. I got a micrometer here, but you can use a ruler or whatever and find it out. We find out we're roughly about 3 inches from pupil to pupil. So we know that when we drill our box, like I said, I used a Radio Shack project box for this thing, the holes, the center on the hole line is going to have to be about 3 inches apart. For drilling the box, what I normally use is just a regular hole saw, a 1-inch hole saw. 1 inch seems to work pretty well for the eyes. You actually want some clearance on the bottom and the top of the eyes, because if you make it too tight, the eyes have a tendency to rub, and that's not a good thing. In any case, the way you do the painting is just get a small mat knife out and cut around the pupils. Kind of start with a small hole and work your way out. One of the things I found that works best is if it has like a cardboard background, it works better than the actual canvas ones. Canvas has a tendency to kind of like flake and make little riffly ends. But a way to get around that is, again, get your 5-minute epoxy, put it on the inside creases, and paint it around the back, like around an inch space on the back. And that'll make a nice plastic kind of edge for the eyeballs to ride in. Alright, so we found our center spots. We know they're about 3 inches apart. What we got to do is you basically take your eyeball, just guesstimate where center would be on it, get it as close as you can. Now move the 2 little brackets slightly up and down so that the eyeball will move free. Okay, turn it this way so you can see what I'm doing. But that'll give us a center point where you can just put a little punch mark and drill the hole through. Usually like a 6/32 screw will work. You want to do the same thing with the other side. Remember, you did 2 of these eyeballs. And flip it around, get to the inside of the box. Line the brackets up with the hole, have your little screw going through. You put a washer on the side if you want, or if you don't want. Another thing you might want to do is try to keep it as flat as possible. In other words, don't like load it up with washers and stuff, because it's going to separate away from the painting once you glue it to the back of the painting. But what you wind up with is something that looks like this. This is the other eyeball. Now pause for a second while I put the other eyeball in, and we'll link them together. Okay, we got the 2 little eyeball swivel mounts here, as you can see. Move freely. What we got to do now is put in the ball linkages. Once again, there's something you can get at a hobby store. You see there's a little brass ball in there, and they either come in two different sizes. These are for 440 rod, these are for 256 rod. Pick up both just in case. The rods themselves aren't that expensive. They're only about $1 a piece. What you want to do, as you can see, these already have holes in them. Go to the second hole, take a mat knife, ream it out a little bit so you can fit the screw that comes with it. They already come with a mounting screw, with a 440 hex head mounting screw. Assemble the ball joint through it. As you can see here, usually I put 2 washers on it. Kind of takes the stress off the plastic, because the plastic has a tendency to not like it. Did the same thing with the other side, 2 with the second hole. You stick with the second hole in both of them. That'll sort of keep the eyes in alignment. But what you're going to have to do once you put the 440 rod, the connecting link in there, is you're going to have to take it on and off a couple times to kind of get them centered so they're both looking in the same direction at the same time. Otherwise it kind of gets kind of cross-eyed and one looks like it has astigmatism in the one eye. For the one eye will be slower than the other. And what you want to do on the other one, where your motor mount is you're mounting another ball joint, but you're going to the second to the last hole. It's a little tricky, but it's the same deal. This will give you another ball joint coming off, and this will be for your motor mount. Stop it for me. Okay, we got the linkage on there for the motor mount. What I suggest is, for drilling the motor mount, is just drill a small hole, go as far off to the side as you can possibly go with it. It's better to go too far over than have it too close, otherwise it has a tendency to bind up. Like I said, I just used a gear because I happen to have one that fit the motor and it just happened to be laying around. But you could take the same linkage, or the same control arms that you used for the eyeballs, and cut them down to size and make the same type of mechanism that'll just clamp right on in place of like the gear. So that's all you need to do, is build an eccentric cam that's going to pull the little ball joint back and forth. So as you can see, what's happening is the motor rotates around, it pulls this little arm, which is making the eyeballs move back and forth. Any way you can get the motor to fit in the box, basically, is the way to do it. It's a little bit of trial and error, but believe me, it's not that difficult. Nice thing about the Radio Shack project boxes is it all fits in there all nice and contained. Nothing's going to mess with the mechanisms, and you can screw it back together, and there you have an eyeball mechanism. As the motor rotates around, pushes the eyes back and forth. I don't know if I can find. Now that I've finally found the outlet, I'll show you exactly how the thing works. So you can see the little motor's rotating back and forth. It's pulling the little arm that pulls the eyeballs back and forth, and it pushes them back the other direction. Well, it does when you have it all together. So the motor mounts in there sideways like that. And there we have a nice little eyeball mechanism that'll fit in basically any kind of painting. You can play around with the dimensions a little bit. You can get them to fit in masks. I have gotten them to fit in masks, just not with the Radio Shack project boxes. There's all sorts of different ways of mounting it. You can mount it on a piece of plexiglass, and then you can make a nice flat panel and you can put it up against your favorite mask. Or statues, or if you got something that's like vacuum formed, it works really well. You can just mount it directly into the vacuum form itself, or fiberglass. We've glassed them into characters, and then it's just a matter of screwing the box back together. You already have your eyes cut out, pushing in, centering it behind the painting, and gluing it in. And there you go. Instant eyeball mechanism. Another thing you might want to try is putting a little light behind it. Sometimes like a little strobe bulb, some kind of low voltage light, or since he's working on 110, you can put a neon light in there. Good thing about neon lights is they never burn out. That'll give it a nice amber glow in there, or even the flicker bulbs work well. They give a kind of little, kind of a strobic movement. And that's how you do an eyeball mechanism. Here's an animation that we did about 2 years ago. It's a little bit of a different concept on the ghoul coming up out of the ground. What we decided to do was go a little backwards on it. Instead of the corpse coming up out of the ground like they normally do, we decided to do kind of a backwards thing where he's coming up out of the ground upside down. As you can see, we basically took a bunch of skeleton feet and skeleton legs. These were ones I got off of Jim Gravis up at Stage Fright Studios. And happened to have a coffin laying around, one of the old square ones. I switched the body that was in that coffin over to a toe pincher type coffin, and I wound up with these coffins laying around. that I couldn't really figure out what to do with. And then I wound up cutting it in half and building a regular kind of pop-up animation where the corpse came up out. And I had the other half of the coffin left over, but it wasn't really big enough to do anything with. So then I came up with this idea of building this little piece. The base down here is basically built up of fiberglass. Essentially, you just take some chicken wire, build it up, stick some brown paper bags, or whatever, fiberglass over top of it, do your rocks and your fiberglass. Then you take fiberglass polyester putty, build it over top and rough it out, and that's what gives the rocky texture. Of course, there's also some real rocks and stuff in there for good measure. The front door here is actually made of old cabinet doors. I happen to be renting space in a warehouse that used to do cabinetry work, and there was a lot of these laying around, also with a lot of old picture frames. And the picture frames made great molding for some of the ornate coffins, and the doors just happen to make great coffin lids. The box itself, it was fabric that was left over, an old piece of cloth and a bunch of crown molding for the sides to kind of detail the sides. And the mechanism itself is very simple. Let me pull off the sides here, and I'll show you how it works. Okay, we remove the fabric. As you can see, the mechanism is really simple. Just a ball joint in the front, put on a piece of little angle steel. The ball joints are I highly recommend them for any kind of animation you're doing. You get them from companies like Mastercard and Granger. Usually they're $3 or $4 a piece, depending on the size and what size rod it uses. And as we bring the camera a little bit closer, monkey boy, please, and look down into here. If you look close inside the box, you see what we got is a little gear motor, an AC gear motor. And we took a collar, welded on a little arm, put another rod in, going through a 1/4-20 bolt that pulls another little bolt joint. Now, this type of mechanism will work for just about any kind of animation. The reason we fastened it in the front of the box instead of the back is it's actually doing less work when you put it in the front. Now, to put this motor in the back, the motor would have to be a lot larger. Plus, it kind of makes it all nice and self-contained. And that's all really it is. Tilting the box up in front. The back of it's fastened with two very large strap hinges, and that's what gives it the nice tilt. And it's a nice little animation. It works very good outside. I've used it on hay rides. I've used it on front lawns. It's been in 3 different casinos. And very simple, very easy to do. You should be able to do it in about a day and a half.
When it comes to customer satisfaction, one of the most important aspects is detail in your attraction. Here at the Darkness Haunted Theme Park, we spared no expense covering every inch of every wall. We want the experience to be as real as possible. One of the best detailers in the business is in Poughkeepsie, New York, by the name of Kevin McCurdy. He worked for a company called Flight Tech. Let's see if we can find Kevin out there, somewhere in the haunted cyber world.
Hi everybody, I'm Kevin McCurdy, and this is the Haunted Mansion and Fright Trail in Poughkeepsie, New York. Each year we completely renovate our haunted attraction, both inside and out. Behind me you can see the facade of Ravenscroft Manor, which was a Victorian house that our audience took a trip through to find the ghost chamber. Let's take a peek inside and show you a couple of the rooms, and then I'd like to talk to you about theming your attraction and give you a couple tips on painting some scenery. Come on inside. First room to Ravenscroft Manor. Our theme last year to the Haunted Mansion was about a gentleman who owned this house in the early 1900s. He built a machine to contact the dead, and you were invited on the anniversary of his disappearance to hold a seance, to communicate with him, and to find the ghost chamber. What they didn't know is a demon had taken on his form and was going to capture everybody's souls. So it was sort of an adventure, and it gave us a story to base our attraction on. And certainly story and theming is not for every haunted house, and that's all well and good. There are some great haunted houses out there that really don't have a theme. They have a lot of scares. Ours is more of a theatrical experience, so not only do we have scares, but we also have the story to go along with it. We feel this also keeps people coming back year after year, changing the theme and so forth, to see what we're going to do this year, you know. So theming and story is very important to us. So the first thing we do is develop a story. And then we start doing research. Well, the time period was the early 1900s. This was an old Victorian house. So we found a lot of books, a lot of pictures. We went visiting regular Victorian houses and so forth, coming up with different ideas for wallpaper and paneling and the furnishings in the room. Then we start to develop our story, and we start to develop our effects and our scares around that theme. So let's take a look now at Mr. Ravenscroft's private study, which I think is right behind the secret panel. Oh yeah. Come on in and I'll show you some of the props in here. It's a little stuffy back there. That was where the family lawyer made his entrance from for the seance. The people sat around this casket-shaped table in a casket-shaped room. They found this pretty eerie and kind of went along with our story that Mr. Ravenscroft was preoccupied with death. So he had fashioned this room in the shape of a casket. The room is decorated and furnished in period wallpaper and curtains and so forth. We built all the recessed paneling out of Luan and 1x2s, and basically the room created an environment where you actually felt like you were in an old Victorian house, which was what we tried to do. During the seance, the lights go out, people feel and hear things, and then all of a sudden there was a flash of light. And they saw this table exactly as it was when they came in, with the tarot cards spread out. Then a second later, another flash of light. This had revolved so that the corpse was now on the table. So sitting around this table, you were pretty close, and all of a sudden there's a corpse right on the table in front of you. Another flash of light a second later, and of course the corpse was gone. Now this ran on air, and it was very, very quiet. It was very, very effective to create the chills and the atmosphere needed to continue on into the Mystery of Ravenscroft Manor, which we're going to show you more of on Secrets of the Haunted Mansion Volume 2, which will be available soon, so give us a call. Right now, we'd like to go back to our shop and show you how to age and distress scenery. So vacuum form scenery. This is made by using a large sheet of plastic that's heated up and pulled over top of a mold. They create different textures. There's cement block, all kinds. This happens to be an old brick wall. So it's very thin, as you can see. If you're not familiar with vacuum scenery, it's really easy to apply. You can staple it up on the wall, screw it, glue it, whatever you like. It's really easily painted. You can take a sprayer and just put a base coat of gray on this, and then take a roller, go back and roll on the brick color, and it'll be really, really quick and very realistic once it's painted the correct way. I'm going to show you now how to paint just a really simple brick wall, which could come in handy in a lot of scenes for your haunted attraction. I'm going to show you how to paint some brick, quick brick, and then we're going to show you how to age it. Okay, so basically we started with a completely gray wall here, and we're just going to add the bricks on there. So sounds like it's getting a little stormy outside. I mixed up a brick color, and this is really fast and easy. It's a good way to do it. These are 2-inch brushes, and 2 inches is just about the width of a brick. So if you know about the length of a brick, it's about 8 inches or so, then you can start to put on some of this brick color. Now the gray is still wet underneath, but that's going to kind of work for us here and blend everything together. So we're just going to make a line, and don't worry too much. If you really have to, you can take a T-square and draw some lines so that you have, so the bricks are level. And of course, don't forget, you're using a brick pattern, so this brick sits over top of these two like that. And I'm not being really careful or anything on where the bricks end or start. I'm just approximating where the bricks are going to go. And I'm going to do this and create this whole wall here. And again, just kind of laying in the color so that we get an idea where the bricks are going to go. You should kind of have a reddish brown to start off with, a real basic brick color, and then in a minute or two, I'm going to show you how to darken and lighten up some of the bricks so that all bricks are not created equal, so they say. All bricks are not the same color, and you can see how quickly I'm doing it. Now the other way to get a brick shape is to take a sponge, one of those big sponges that you wash your car with. Usually the edge of that sponge is just about the size of a brick, or you could cut it down if you like, and get it to be the correct size. And you can take and dip the sponge in the paint and just sort of sponge paint bricks on here. And that's another way you could do it. But a lot of times you'll need a brick wall somewhere, and this is kind of a quick and easy way. Sounds like that storm's getting closer. I'm going to finish up. Okay, so there we have our bricks. As you can see, that's about a third of a 4x8 section, so it wouldn't take me too long to go back and finish up a whole wall full of bricks. Okay, now we're just going to take, over here I have some brown, and I'm just going to go back and hit some of the bricks with a little bit more brown, and that'll kind of darken them up a little bit and give her different colors. And then I'm going to take a little bit of black, and I'm going to kind of, from one end of the brick, I'm going to start here and drag the brush across, but I'm not going to do the whole brick. I'm just going to do one side. So, kind of like this. Now this also works with doing rocks and so forth. You can do rocks this way. You get a lot of depth. When this is finished, these will look three-dimensional, believe it or not. And we just do this, and they all don't have to be done. Some of them you can do really, really light, just to give a little bit of shadow in there or whatever. Okay, there we go. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just the black again, and I'm just going to do an underline underneath some of the bricks. And that makes it look like those bricks are kind of sticking out a little bit, that the light is creating a shadow underneath them. So I'll put a little line under some of them. And again, I'm doing this really quick here so you can get the general idea. And then some of them you can actually do the sides too, to kind of define them. Okay, again, not being really careful at this point either, because we are going to go back and clean these up. Okay, we get that far. And now, what I'm going to go do is I'm going to mix a little paint with some water, and I'll be right back to show you how we splatter these. I better get my raincoat while I'm at it. Okay, now I've got my mix here. I just diluted a little black paint so it's nice and thin, and we're going to spatter it. And this is a technique that they use when creating theatrical scenery. It's a method of distressing something, and we're famous for that. What we do is spatter the brick with the black, and you can go back and spatter it with another color too. You can spatter it with white if you like. Just like that. Kind of breaks it up and pulls it together at the same time. And maybe just a little bit more, because these are pretty old bricks we're trying to do here. You don't want to do too heavy of a splatter. You got to practice doing this. It doesn't. You dip the brush in a little bit, take a little bit off, do a test spatter, and then away you go. Just a little flip of the wrist, and there you have it. Okay, so we've done that, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go back and take our take some gray, and we're going to go back and just start defining some of those mortar lines, just to kind of clean it up just a little bit. Now, depending on, how crazy you want to get, you certainly don't have to do this, but it makes a nice look when you're done. Just like that. And you would do the whole area, of course. I'm not going to get a chance here to do everything, but I'll do a section. It's okay if some of the colors kind of mix together. Everything here is still wet, and you got a little blending going on. I hear that thunder coming back, so must mean it's going to start raining any minute here. I better finish this up. There we go. And you can see now how it starts to get a little bit more defined. Okay. There we go. Okay, now, to age it even more, make it look like it's even older, we're going to take some of that black we had, dilute it, that we were using for spattering there, and I'm just going to make it look like some of the weather and the elements have settled on top of the bricks, and there they are on the black on top of the brick here, and then pull it down like it, okay, it's going around the brick, and maybe it falls on the front of this one, and it kind of drips. We just drag the brush down with a little of that watered black paint, and maybe it went over this way and dripped down. Okay, and there's some more coming from the top, maybe coming down. Very, very lightly. Just let it kind of drip down the bricks. Just think about how real bricks look. It helps too if you go around and you find some old buildings and so forth, and take some pictures and see how the colors and how the weather affects the different things. Later on, we're going to go down the mansion. I'm going to show you some of the siding that we did on the outside of the building and how wood would look. But that's that might be a little much, depending on, you know, if you're in an old sewer or an old prison or something. I guess you might have this much dripping down. And there you have it. There's a brick wall coming along. You might want to spatter it some more, depending on how bright you want this. The more you spatter, the more it'll tone it down, and it gives you an idea on how to age something. So we've done the spatter, we've done the drips, and let's go back to the Haunted Mansion now and take a look at that siding. Right trail, and I just wanted to show you one of our mausoleums out here in the graveyard. This is where we used some of that vac form brick that we just painted. Now this was painted and then it was heavily distressed. We wanted to make it look like it was really, really old. So we used the spatter technique first, and then we diluted down some of the black paint, and we had some drips. We draw that down with a brush and let it drip down. And then we took a paint sprayer with some black paint in it, kind of a light diluted wash of black, and we went around and I just sprayed all the corners. Sprayed in here, anywhere where there was a corner where it might be darker, okay? Because that's how things age. And then we went back and just misted it with just a light mist of white, or an off-white, like a light gray. And that's the effect. And then you can go back with a paintbrush and so forth, and darken up some of the cracks and so forth. And this is just plain plywood here, and we spattered it, we did some cracks in it, and you can see how it really has a texture now. It really has a look to it. So you can really dress up just a regular old piece of plywood, and it's pretty easy. Just get your materials together and just do a little experimenting and have a lot of fun. Okay, now let's go over and take a look at the mansion. At the Haunted Mansion, I just wanted to show you the outside siding that's on the outside of the building here. We've created the siding with regular old half-inch CDX cut into strips and applied to the existing wall. And then we took a base color of gray, and painted it all. And then on top of that, we dry brushed a lighter gray and even a light gray, almost a white, on top of that, to create the aged look. We also took a little black and ran it underneath each of the pieces of siding here to almost create a shadow, and that's where it would be darker, okay, where maybe the mold is growing or whatever, to make it look like the outside of the building is really weathered and has been here for years. Maybe it started off gray, but the weather has taken its toll. So there you have it, a nice little way to create some distressing on some wood. We even went back in and put in a little wood grain line here and there with a small brush, and I think it came out pretty nice. Well, I hope you picked up some ideas from us, and check out Secrets of the Haunted Mansion Volume 2, which is coming out really soon. And thanks a lot for visiting us here at the Haunted Mansion and Freight Trail with the Gibson.
We want to thank Kevin, the master of Macabre McCurdy, for showing us some of the best detail we've ever seen. If you've never seen a haunted house such as Kevin McCurdy's Haunted Mansion, make sure you look it up on the web at Hauntworld. Now, on to Ohio, where you will find Dr. and Laura Lady, the proprietors of a most unusual haunted house called the Haunted Hotel, a museum of monsters. Also, Dr. and Laura Lady produce some of the best collectible masks in the business. Now, let's take a tour through the Haunted Hotel and pay close attention to the talking skull, for he is your guide.
Well, green things and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, boys and ghouls, hamsters and poodles and zombies. Welcome, I'm Dr. Lady.
I'm Laura Lady.
And next, your old friend Dr. Frightener is going to take you on a little video tour of our world-infamous Horror Hotel Monster Museum right here in Chatfield, Ohio. So please do stay tuned. I wouldn't want to have to make Laura here retune you.
Welcome to Horror Hotel, the hotel that stands on the portal between this world and the beyond, where we cater to all ghosts and monsters who appear in the world each Halloween season. Before we begin our tour, I'd like to introduce you to some members of our friendly and efficient staff. Here we have our desk clerk, who's just dying to have you sign in. And our bellboy, Quasimodo. Well, he's had plenty of experience with bells, you know. And our new cleaning lady. She's one woman who really knows how to handle a broom. Here is the lobby, where our guests often come when they have a little time to kill. I see Pumpkinhead is lending a hand by taking the cake into the dining hall for tonight's party. If you'll please look into the dining area, you'll see that we're hosting the big reunion bash for the class of 72. 1872, that is. There are so many zombies here tonight, the place is practically alive with the dead. They all really know how to have a good time. After dinner, they'll all probably go out and paint the town dead. While they're enjoying our fine hot cuisine, let's go on upstairs and see what other fun we can scare up. Come along, please. We're very health conscious here at the hotel. In fact, the proprietors have donated all their internal organs to medical science. And I dare say they're holding up quite well without them. Frankenstein came to settle up his bill, but when he realized he still owed us an arm and a leg, he got quite a shock that he had to come and see our resident mad doctor to get his voltage back to normal. He may look a little wired now, but don't worry, we won't let him go away feeling overcharged. Now, if you'll come along into the next room, please. Our next guest, the Headless Horseman, usually only haunts Sleepy Hollow. But this year, he decided to materialize here at Horror Hotel. After searching for his original head ever since the Revolutionary War, he's finally given up and decided to settle for taking a new one back with him. If you know someone who doesn't use his head very much, the Horseman would be most grateful if you'd send him up to this room to volunteer. He promises there'll be no questions asked, and you'll have have the satisfaction of knowing the Headless Horseman won't be out searching for a donor in your neighborhood tonight. Now, let's move along. This year, the Count and his daughter flew into town to celebrate her coming out. Of the grave, that is. Now that she's come of age, 150 I believe, he's hoping to marry her off and keep the family bloodline going. Any eligible bachelors will have to call on her later, though, since it's almost time for their nightly visit to the 24-hour blood bank to make a withdrawal. Let's move on to the room across the hall now, before they decide to save themselves a trip. This way, please. Well, I see the Crypt Keeper is providing entertainment in the hotel library tonight, or at least trying to. In spite of one of our guests heckling. Oh, poor Mummy. He came in here hoping to unwind and get all wrapped up in the Crypt Keeper's stories. But Beetlejuice's rude behavior is getting him all unraveled. It just wouldn't be Halloween without a pumpkin carving contest. Although it's hardly a fair contest since our latest guest, Edward, here joined in. Even going up against some very experienced carvers, he always wins hands and blades down.
Unfortunately, you're not able to see the amount of detail Dr. Lady puts into his attraction. Let's see if we can go back out to Dr. Lady and see if we can convince him to give us a lights-on tour and a description of one of his scenes. So we'll dig into the head of Dr. Lady and get his idea for detail.
And there were a lot of jokes here in the old zombie room that, well, I think people didn't get it and they weren't aware of it. This guy has a ton of food. He's making a pig of himself. He's like swiped as much of the food as he could get. There, of course, some bottles, some empties from this troublemaker, some empty dead dogs, and other things going on here at the table. This guy, a shot of him, is jabbing the guy beside him in the hand with the fork for trying to grab the heart off his plate, and that was one of those beating hearts so that it throbs and moves and the hand wiggles up and down with it. And as you can see, the guy who's getting stuck with the fork is clearly going, ah. And hey, who's that youngster? And down here we have a very angry looking guy who's saying, hey, what do you think you're doing there? And the reason for that is his arm is missing. See, he has this arm, but his other arm has just been removed by his friend who is about to put some salt on it and have it for dinner, he thinks. And let's see. This particular zombie is smiling down hungrily at the arm, but his friend isn't too keen on the idea of having his arm eaten, so he is asking for it back in no uncertain terms. While people like this and this just quietly stand back and watch
the proceedings. Thank you. Of course, Edward, being a good carver, if you saw the movie, you know he was very adept with his scissor hands. He would carve the really good, elaborate pumpkin, while the competition back here is not doing so well. Freddie has gotten his glove stuck in his entry, and that's what's happening there. And he's also trying to shield himself from the splattering of where Leatherface is attempting to carve his pumpkin with a chainsaw, which of course is Leatherface's tool of choice. The right tool for the right job, Leatherface says, and unfortunately for every job he tends to think of the chainsaw, but there he is. And he's really not doing so well. He's kind of making a mess. And Freddie is not happy about it. And back in the corner we have Michael Myers using his instrument of choice, the butcher knife, and he's about to shove it into his pumpkin, which actually looks pretty good. You wouldn't think Michael could do that good a job, but you know, when he needs to, he could be pretty creative. So there he is. And that pretty much sums it up for this year's Horror Hotel. For all those of you who were here in person, we thank you for coming all this way to see us. And for those of you who didn't, hey, where the heck were you? I think with that, I'll just sign off.
Thank you, Dr. Lady, for that most horrifying tour. Now, let's check in with Terror on Church Street, one of the nation's longest-running year-round haunts, located in downtown Orlando, Florida, and Church Street Station. Terror on Church Street. Its detail will amaze you. Let's just take a sneak peek at their all-new lobby.
I start to finish this
Back to Terror Tips from the Grave and Beyond.
Now, let Dr. Frightener offer you a piece of advice about detail in your haunted attraction. Think about this. If your theme is a haunted hospital, what would Freddy Krueger, Jason, and Pinhead be doing in that haunted house? Would they be there for a checkup? I don't think so. They're already dead. So the point is, costumes and makeup should fit the theme of the attraction. Now, let's take a look at a haunted house located right here in Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri. It's called TerrorVisions, and the theme had a lot to do with clowns. Let's take a look.
Every Wednesday this month, our News 30 Extra has featured a different haunted house in the St. Louis area. And tonight, the Wednesday before Halloween, we feature our last installment of what we call Fright Night. Phil Rosen has our live report from one of the oldest spook palaces in the city. Phil?
Don, good evening. I'm on Washington Avenue at 19th Street downtown. This is TerrorVisions. It is one of the oldest, if not the oldest haunted house still operating in the city of St. Louis. In tonight's Fright Night, we take you inside a house that claims to give you a good old-fashioned spook. From the moment you walk into the darkness, TerrorVisions has one goal: to scare the pants off you.
I'll kill you all.
Anything to terrify people. We're trying to be the scariest haunted house in St. Louis. And we have the craziest actors and the craziest scenes.
Crazy as in a mad surgeon complete with chainsaw. Once you're inside, there's no turning back.
Help me! Please help me! Get me out of here!
The folks who run TerrorVisions don't have the high-tech toys. They rely on about 30 actors to jump out and scare you, and they're counting on you to have some happy childhood memories, and then they twist them.
'Twas the night before Christmas, and nobody knew the kind of destruction St. Nicholas could do.
TerrorVisions turns Christmas upside down. Santa is scary. And there are other happy times turned evil. Like a circus that really gives you the chills.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to the Circus Macabre.
It was kind of like one of those horror houses. It was really scary.
You see just a bunch of clowns sitting around thinking, oh, this is going to be, kind of laid back and nice, and then all of a sudden somebody's jumping up at you with a chain, throwing it against the wall.
And what may set TerrorVisions apart from the others is the way you get out of the place. You have to glide down this foggy slide, not knowing what's on the other end.
I'm back again to talk to you about detail in your haunted attraction when it comes to facades. Remember, the very first thing you see is the facade. The facade could make or break your attendance. If a customers are leery about going into the attraction and you have a very beautiful, scary, macabre type of facade, it could sell that ticket. Now, let's take a look at one of the best facades in the business. Back out to Orlando, Florida. Let's take a look at Skull Kingdom.
Threshold of this incredible journey. Step forward and face your destiny.
Welcome, everybody. I see you're still alive so far. Now remember...
Aren't you going to introduce us to our guest?
Oh, how completely rude of me. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the Boney Boys. My name is Deez, and to my left is Gus. Hello, people. And to my right is Tang.
Just hanging around. I'll kill myself. No, I can't. I'm already dead.
Have you ever wondered who made all those latex masks that you wear and buy in retail stores every Halloween? Well, one of the biggest and best latex manufacturers in the business is Distortions Unlimited. Let Ed Edmonds, owner of Distortions, take you on a macabre tour of their factory. Let him show you how they mass produce the most horrifying props and masks. And then, after that, we'll go straight to Distortions Unlimited's own haunted attraction called Brutal Planet. Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Ed Edmonds. You're at Distortions, a place where it's hard to tell what's real and what's not. Let me show you what I mean. Well, I've always had an interest in monsters ever since I was a kid, and didn't believe I could make a living making monsters, but found out when I was in college that there was a demand for them and that I could manufacture them, and that's how it started. Here at Distortions, we make the things that go in the night. I'll let our newest tour guide take you through the factory. Have fun.
Thank you, Master Mask Maker. We start here by making a clay model of the most disgusting thing we can think of. Of course, it's beautiful to me. After the clay gets a little harder, they smother it with plaster, covering every part of the front of its face. Once the front plaster is hard, they'll do the same to the back, making a two-piece mold. Now that both sides are hard, they'll rip it apart. And yes, they'll have to remove all the clay guts that were inside. And the only way to do this is by pulling and picking and pulling and picking and digging and picking. It drives me crazy, I tell you. Now, when the two pieces are put together, you have a mold. They'll make many production molds from this mold and fill them all with liquid latex. Yeah, all the way to the top. It's beautiful, yes? They'll let this sit until the latex thickens against the plaster. About 15 minutes. Now they'll pour the excess latex out, leaving a thin layer of skin inside the mold. Now, once it's dry, they'll rip their heads out. I mean, they'll pull the mask out of the mold. And, ooh, that's ugly. Now they're thrown into a dryer to finish drying so they can be all cut up. I mean trimmed. Here they take a pair of scissors and they poke their eyes out. I mean they cut their eyes and nose and mouth so they can be good little monsters. Good little monsters. bit of hairspray fills in those unsightly bald spots. Lovely mascara.
Is that aftershave you're wearing? It's lovely.
Now he is alive!
And now, in addition to masks, we've gotten into haunted houses. As you can see, manufacturing can be a scary business, and we're in the business of manufacturing fear. Jeez!
Here is the ultra-scary Brutal Planet Haunted House. News 4's Vince Gonzalez toured the planet with one horror show expert, and Vince says, prepare to be scared.
The warning signs say it all. A trip to Brutal Planet is not for the faint of heart. The modern haunted house Brutal Planet is part disco, part magic show, part sideshow.
This way! For the stage! For Brutal Planet!
Go off into fear! And you're in big trouble!
And you're in for a big scare at Brutal Planet. It can be gross, it can be sick, it can be a shocking experience. Here at Brutal Planet, they have a very simple complaint policy: no complaints allowed. We took the tour with the rock and roll master of the macabre, Alice Cooper. Even on Brutal Planet, fans were reaching out to him. Under the surface of Brutal Planet is a huge group of local actors and makeup artists. Alice Cooper calls it unique in the nation.
I've never seen one like this. You know, that's what kind of attracts me. The people that put this on really do an elaborate job on it. They spend all year putting it together.
Incorporating old fears like zombies and frights of the future like aliens, visitors to Brutal Planet get a trip to the haunted house of the future. Vince Gonzalez, News 4.
Now, you're probably wondering, how do I get into the haunted house business successfully? One thing I can suggest to you is to hire a haunted consultant. On the pages of Hauntworld, you'll be able to find several of them. Another thing I can suggest to you is get in touch with the World Wide Web. Search out key names like Halloween, haunted house. Learn from other people. Get on Hauntworld. The Fright Forum message board is filled with haunters that will be more than willing to offer you advice. Another thing I can suggest to you, subscribe to anything haunted possible, such as Haunted Attraction Magazine, Fright Times, and Fangoria. Speaking of Fangoria, the editor of Fangoria, Anthony Timpone, whom happens to be writing a book right now about haunted attractions. We asked him recently what he thought makes a good haunted house. Here's what he had to say.
I think that's what scares you most at a horror theme park is the unexpected. You know, when you turn that corner, you don't know what's going to come and hit you or spook you or whatever. The unexpected, I think, is really the key to a really good theme park, a horror theme park.
What do you think people really like about Halloween?
They love to be scared. You know, it's the universal emotion, to be scared, to laugh, to cry, and to scream. People, it's what makes us human, I suppose.
What advice do you have to all those aspiring haunted house owners that want to scare people every Halloween?
I say put your heart into it. You know, think about the stuff that you want to see, what you enjoyed as a kid. And make it fun, too. You know, give people their money's worth, give them lots of eye candy, lots of atmosphere, lots of special effects, and make it a real fun ride for everybody.
So Anthony, tell us, some of the biggest, most popular horror movies like The Exorcist and Psycho, what do you think are the elements that made those movies so popular that people can like aspire to use in their own haunted house?
I think you make it real enough. You make it real. Sure, you can have your werewolf and your vampires and your fantasy characters, but it has to be in a situation that people can relate to. You know, a cemetery, a spooky forest, a basement, something that's part of our lives that when they come here, it's just like a little twist into fantasy where they can relate to and they can picture themselves really getting scared as if the situation was real to them. That's the key. The horror films that are the most effective are the ones that are real, that we can relate to, that we could, hey, that could be me up there on the big screen. And when you come into a haunted house that's very effective, it's a situation that's like something you could find in real life that's threatening to you. I think what makes a difference between a good haunted house and a bad haunted house is the attention to detail. The ones that I like the best, like Darkness Haunted Theme Park, is the amazing attention to detail. Every square inch of the place is just covered with spooky memorabilia and cobwebs and paintings and stuff. The amount of work that went into it, it must have been enormous. And with all that eye candy, another good thing about it is it's so overwhelming, you want to immediately go out and buy another ticket and see it again just to catch all the stuff you probably missed, because there's just so much to see. That's a way to get people to keep coming back. You give them so much that they have to buy another ticket just to catch everything that they probably missed while they were running past and screaming and closing their eyes.
Obviously, Anthony, you've seen a lot of haunted houses. You're probably the biggest spook fan in the world. Tell me some of the most interesting things that you've seen in your travels in haunted houses.
I'd say some of the most effective stuff has been the animatronic figures. And when you make them scary, when someone's walking by and all of a sudden a wall comes down or a giant monster head comes out of the ceiling to grab you, that stuff worked for me just as much as the guys running around in demented makeup. Because the stuff is so well designed, and you don't expect a giant creature to come out of the ceiling, an animatronic figure, because they're expensive to do. So that was part of the unexpected. I got spooked a few times when these big monsters would come down, because I was mostly expecting people to be chasing me with bats and clubs and stuff. So I like that stuff because I didn't expect it. And again, I think that's part of the key to a good haunted house is the unexpected.
Anthony, you have seen more horror movies, more haunted houses than anyone knows. Tell me, what do you have to really say to all the haunters out there? What piece of recommendation can you offer?
I would say make it fun. Make it a total experience. Give them the haunted scenes, give them lots of eye candy, and give them stuff to do before they go into your haunted house. And that just the bottom line is make it fun. Make it a total experience.
And read Fango magazine.
And read Fangoria magazine.
And I would like to thank all of you who watched this tape. I hope that we were able to help you in some small way. And be prepared for Hauntworld Part 2, which will be coming out next year. And remember, Hauntworld at www.hauntworld.com is your official informational source on the web about haunted houses. Take care, and remember, we'll be waiting for you in the darkness.
you like, subscribe, and follow Hauntworld on Instagram at Hauntworld. And then you can also follow us on Facebook. We have a huge Facebook community with over 600,000 followers. But make sure you go to hauntworld.com. We put up blogs, we put up how-to videos and more. And make sure you like and subscribe to our page. And until next time, when we take you through some of the scariest places and the most unique events in the country, we'll see you then.
For scary videos and more, subscribe to our YouTube page, Hauntworld.com.